Thank you, Antoinette. Darlene Green, and I am here to talk about stem cells. We are in a stem cell revolution, and most people understand the power of stem cells and are trying to figure out how to get their hands on them. There's a ton of research and studies, but currently you need to go out of country to get mesenchymal stem cells, which I actually have done 4 times. With no real effect, actually, but they can be very effective. They are the body's raw materials. Most people understand that they were what made you. The first two cells that came together to create you were stem cells. But when we have activated working stem cells, they reduce inflammation. They trigger the death of old cells, apoptosis. They differentiate into any kind of tissue, muscle, bone, cartilage, fat, and they self-replicate. The problem is that they decline in their productivity, and by 30, only half are functioning, and by 60, almost none are functioning at all. And this is why we're aging. This is why we feel things that we didn't feel when we were young. We could bounce back so quickly when we got sick or injured when we were little, because all those stem cells were going to work for us. But look where we are now. But we now have something that is revolutionary. Breakthrough technology invented by David Smith, you see in the middle of your screen. He's not just a business owner. He's a brilliant scientist, a researcher, a genius inventor, actually. They liken him to Tesla. He has over 200 patents focused on anti-aging and regenerative science, and really stem cell therapy is his favorite. Leading phototherapy industry research and science for more than 20 years now, David has ensured that we have science backing our product, clinically proven in over 130 clinical studies. How does this work? Well, this is a well-recognized and proven scientific principle. I don't have to tell you that light therapy is being used in infrared saunas, cold laser, all sorts of light therapy are being used because we've known for 5,000 years that phototherapy makes a huge difference, and specific frequencies of light cause specific changes within the body. We know when we go out in the sun, our body makes vitamin D or melanin. We also know that when we place this little patch, it's so tiny, it's the size of a quarter. Yes, you've got yours on, I've got mine on. And it's just so easy. This is a picture of a patch blown up so you can see what's inside. These organic materials and nanocrystals are essentially creating a little mirror. And this mirror is reflecting your own light back into you at a very specific wavelength. Different patches, different lattice structures, different wavelengths of light. The best thing, though, is that this is non-transdermal. Nothing is going into the skin, so it's completely safe. It could even be placed on the outside of my shirt. It could be placed on the inside of my shirt facing outward, which is fabulous when we have children that are autistic and can't handle sensory touch. This is just placed on the back of their shirt and makes a huge difference, or inside of a hat even. This has been called the holy grail of anti-aging and restorative science because of the amazing impacts. But what I love about this is, since it's just light, there's no contraindications or drug interactions. We do not have to worry about the long list of pharmaceutical medicines someone may on. In fact, what we often see is they come off of those things after being on the patch for very limited time. We'll talk a little bit more about that later.
For less than $100 a month. Easy to apply the X39 patch below the belly button or the base of the spine. If, for example, you're having some low back pain flare up, you can apply the patch directly to the pain. Just apply to clean, dry skin, leave it on for 12 hours, take it off after 12 hours, throw it away, put on a new patch, and drink half your body weight in ounces of water.
What I love, Antoinette, is the patent. So this is not like other things that you can market in your offices, because this is unique. There is nothing like this. There are other patches in the world. There are nicotine and hormone patches. They are transdermal. There are other kinds of patches, but nothing is proven like ours, with a patent that actually says, as you look in there, produces beneficial effects to human bodies, such as the activation of stem cells. They had to prove that to patent it. Additionally, you'll see it says increases copper peptide, GHKCU. That peptide is perhaps the most powerful peptide in our body. And if you haven't heard of it, you can go to PubMed and you can Google it and you can see all sorts of studies that are amazing. You can read the full patent. What I love is when you look in PubMed and you see all of the studies, 50 years of studies by Dr. Picard, you'll see that they have found and proven in double-blind placebo-controlled studies that GHKCU increases stem cells. It resets 4,200 genes to a younger, healthier state. That's epigenetics at its best. It turns them on if they're supposed to be on. It turns them off if they're supposed to be off. Resetting them to a younger state is huge. And that has that's immediately, that's within 24 hours. It produces growth factors, which is amazing for healing, improves brain and nerves, improves memory, removes free radicals, has neuroprotective properties, and stimulates nerve growth factor. This product, GHKCU, improves heart health. It is improving essentially the way your heart works by reducing fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is often a cause of heart attack, and increases myostatin, which protects against heart attack. So these types of automatic body responses are phenomenal. This is amazing for healing tissue repair and lung cells. It improves skin and hair. So some of us are really enjoying that. And it lengthens telomeres, the tiny little strands at the end of your DNA, like shoestring, the little caps on shoestrings, directly correlated with your length of life and disease. And the longer your telomeres, the better. Imagine being able to lengthen your telomeres.
Maybe asking who's using the patches in their practice, because I don't want to be an outlier. Well, Adam Shiner, who's the doctor on the far left here, he's a laser, eye lift, and facial plastic surgeon. He requires every patient to use the patch for 3 months before surgery and 9 months after surgery, 6 months after surgery. And we'll show you why later, because the healing properties are just so magnificent. And he has much better outcomes. The X39 patch is considered one of the most amazing products in medicine, according to anesthesiologist Dr. Joseph Peck. This is the most significant medical breakthrough in my lifetime, he said, and he's here on the far right. This is why this plastic surgeon recommends patching. Take it away, Darlene.
Yes. So, we all would love to look younger. Look at these testimonials, right? From February 1st, even just to February 15th, even just in 2 weeks, you can see the body's increase in collagen. And collagen is our most abundant protein. So when we're increasing our own body's production of collagen, it is an extraordinary thing, not just to our, how we look, but every cell in our body is healthier. The difference between the 1st and the 28th is extraordinary. One of my favorites, though, is when you go all the way down 9 months later, look at that face. It doesn't even look like the same person. And we've been able to experience, Antoinette and I have been able to experience the youth reversing properties of this patch, extraordinary results. But I love this MRI, this scan of this PET scan, actually, of the spine. This is spinal stenosis and 4 bulging discs. There's nothing in medicine that can do this. But you know what? Your stem cells made your spine, and your stem cells can repair your spine. So when we activate the stem cells and it goes to work, it may take 17 months, but can you do anything else? There's no medicine, there's no surgery that can do this. So in time, and you may not feel it as it's improving, although a lot of people feel pain relief fairly quickly. It is an extraordinary result. There is nothing that I know of that it can't improve and help. It just is a matter of how long is it going to take. It's going to prioritize your body's most important thing first. So where you may have a spine issue and want it to start there, it may actually start with the stem cells in your brain or your heart or things you don't even know are going on. What I also love is that it's safe enough and incredibly effective for pets, from dogs to cats to horses. I just was on a vet talk last night where we heard all sorts of testimonials about cats that were on their deathbed, horses that were as well, dogs, and they patch their animals and have amazing results. I love the brain study. I know you do too, Antoinette. This speaks to me very, very well, though, because when I started the patches, I was really searching for something to help my husband with early Alzheimer's. And we had tried everything under the sun, from hyperbaric chamber and ozone therapy and pulse electromagnetic frequency and stem cells out of country. Nothing made a difference. So imagine my absolute surprise when in the very first week I saw these results in my husband and experienced them in my own body. So what you're looking at is a 2019, these are images from the study that Chevalier did. Session 1 is prior to patching with the X39 patch. Session 2 is 3 weeks later, and session 3 is 6 weeks later. What you're seeing there, that redness, that is inflammation. That is not good. Those are not healthy brains. That's exactly what you would see if you saw PTSD, or if you saw autism, or just it's hypercoherence. It's not good communication between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. Immediately in session 2, you see a difference in the color mapping, and that is a reduction in inflammation. And session 3, you have an entirely different image there because of the success of this patch. What they saw in this double-blind placebo-controlled study is, yes, they found that it elevated copper peptide. Yes, it supported cell and nerve regeneration. Nerve regeneration, that is really hard to do. It improved the nervous system by lowering anxiety. I love that. My depression and anxiety lifted in 2 to 3 weeks. It actually decreases the brain inflammation, which we get to see right here, and improved memory, focus, and cognition. And I just want to share with you briefly, my husband was at a state and time in his Alzheimer's journey that he was no longer engaging in conversation. He was no longer trying to be funny, and that was his entire personality. If he was talking, he was trying to be funny before he got Alzheimer's. I had essentially lost him, and he was a zombie in his body. And the very first week of patching, he didn't take his 3.5-hour nap. He began to engage. He began to start quipping with me and interacting and being funny and humorous. I got my husband's funny, flirty personality back within a week. It was extraordinary. And here's some more testimonials. I love that within 24 hours, you can see in a live blood cell analysis after patching. So those cells on the left, those clumped up cells are not oxygenating the blood very well. But look what it can do within just 24 hours. Safe enough to put on a child who's been stung. And one of my favorites, this is Renata's dad's leg. On the left, you see after 6 months of medicine, antibiotics, steroids, all sorts of creams and gels, nothing effective. On the right, that's after 24 hours. 24 hours, you can see this tremendous improvement. Here are some more that I love. In the edema on the left to the right, that is such a healthier human. And imagine the pain relief that comes with that, right? You wouldn't think that you could do anything 40 years after a burn accident. But look, after just 6 weeks, you can see the scar fading. And again, here is another, like, there are actually, I have endless pictures of, people who have had this kind of improvement in one day. Of course, perhaps the most influential study for me was this one. This is a 6-week study that showed dramatic improvement in the cardiovascular system. Every 6 weeks of wearing this patch, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, your cardiovascular system begins functioning as if it's 8 weeks younger. 100% of the people in the study experienced 8-week younger cardiovascular system in just 6 weeks. That is extraordinary. And with ischemic heart disease, the #1 cause of global death, that matters to all of you for all of your patients. This is GHK helping to improve blood vessels to form proper circulation, prevent clotting from too much, and restore integrity to vessel walls. What I experienced was this. I had been diagnosed with POTS, or postural orthostatic tachycardia. I was passing out and fainting. I had been on a medicine for more than 2 decades. And in that time, that medicine was intended to increase my blood pressure to keep me from fainting. Once I began to patch, I didn't need that anymore. When I was going out of country for stem cells, I just wanted to stop passing out. After 20 years of a medicine, I did not want to take. We know all pharmaceuticals have byproducts and negative side effects. I was absolutely ecstatic to be able to play pickleball for hours in the heat of Arizona again and not have to take a medicine. We see scar reduction, not just externally. I mean, this is important, right? We love to look better. You can see this is open heart surgery on July of 2017. And then in July, a year later, the scar is still pretty gnarly, pretty deep. 1 month on X39, you can start to see the new tissue and the flattening of that scar. That is happening not just on external scars that we see, but on some internal scarring that causes reduced mobility. This person that has 2 shoulder surgeries can tell you that increased mobility really helps when you start to go in and tear away the old scar tissue and put in new, fresh material. And our stem cells can do that. And of course, we love the hair growth. So I got to see my husband's bald spot close up. His hair came in darker. In fact, I didn't know he actually ever had like brown hair. So when it came in, I was just like, wow, that is really cool. I also experienced so much hair growth that initially I looked like a little chickadee with all this fluff on top. But this can happen in as quickly as 6 weeks, and you can see it in the eyebrows where they're darker on the right, and the hair's coming in darker. Not to mention the bald spot closing up.
Thanks, Darlene. I want to tell you about my personal testimonial. I lost the entire top of my head and it's regrown back without minoxidil or any other drugs. My rheumatologist was stunned to see my C-reactive protein reduced by 20 points in 90 days, and I got to ditch my cane. Lymphedema was placed into remission. I lost 40 pounds in 30 days without any drugs or fad diets. I suffer from chronic fatigue, a lupus-like autoimmune disease, arthritis from my neck to my coccyx and sacrum after breaking my back and having a traumatic brain injury. I am on 0 drugs at this time. I used to be on 20 medications with some very dangerous side effects. Now I use the X39 patch and the Alavita, which is why my skin looks amazing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And the glutathione patch, I use those daily. I use Lifewave patches when the pain is significant, and also energy enhancement patches when I want to do things like whitewater kayak on some gnarly rapids in Colorado, for example. And I went from using a walker, a service dog, and a full-time caregiver to a sponsored adventure sports athlete. Get this, when I was 53, I'm 58 now. And they thought I was 35 back then. I can't even imagine what age they might think of that I am today. So this photo here with the cap, I'm 7 years older than I am today. I am not using any kind of electronic or digital filter. This is 5 years older than I am today. And now look at my skin. I'm often mistaken for someone in their 30s. And even my fiance said, who is a millennial, says that I look 7 years younger than when he first met me.
You do, Antoinette. And I want to say something there too. I had a very traumatic 5 years. I was a care provider to my husband who had Alzheimer's. I went through a serious healing journey of my own. And I had my biological age tested recently. After the death of my husband in March, after years of care providing and the stress that comes with, I was expecting my biological age to be at least, I'm 61 right now. I wasn't sure what it was going to come back as. It came back at 40. I'm 40 years old. My organs are 40. And I can 100% tell you that's because of the patches. You don't go through the journey that I just went through and have your biological age be 2 decades younger without a lot of help. And these patches have done that trick for me. I also love that Lifewave has invested 10 years in stem cell research. This was not something that happened overnight. We say keep patching until you get your miracle. You don't feel your hair grow. You don't feel your mitochondria increasing in their effectiveness. You don't feel your C-reactive protein dropping. But you know what? You will feel it eventually. It will make a difference. Your energy, your sleep, things will matter. But we say, give it, I mean, I'm going to tell you, give it six to 9 months.